On September 23rd, hateful and racist symbology invaded our multicultural center on ASU's Tempe campus and made the center unsafe for BIPOC students who were trying to study. The two white men, both students, displayed a Police Lives Matter sticker, a Brass Pro hat, a Chick-fil-A cup, and an anti-Biden t-shirt.
The Police Lives Matter sticker was on one of the white man's laptop, which was clearly directed towards a black woman who was leading the black study tables across from him, as the boys chose to sit across from the black study tables. The boys made the space uncomfortable with their nonverbal aggressive gestures directed towards the black woman. The students called for help from ASU, but no one came for over 30 minutes, so we were forced to confront these men by ourselves.
After this incident, we received thousands of rape, death, and lynching threats on our personal Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and email accounts. It's been more than 2 months since the incident, and Zara and I received these threats every single day.
ASU was aware of how we were getting doxxed and suffering psychological and emotional violence by white supremacists from across the country, but it still did not protect us. Instead, they launched an investigation against us, and we had to mobilize the community to protect ourselves from being kicked out by the institution. ASU's investigation found us guilty of interfering with university activities. Dear white people, aka ASU,
you openly discriminated against us on November 16th when you handed down your decision from your racially biased investigation. We are being persecuted for defending our multicultural center from racism and sexism. You gave us 2 punishments. The first one was a warning, and the second one was to write a 3-page paper on how next time when we talk with white people about race and society, we will be civil.
This video is in fulfillment of our educational intervention. We're going to give ASU an educational intervention on why telling students of color at ASU to be more civil in the face of white supremacy and neo-Nazism on this campus is actually violent.
ASU is a violent place. Just last week, there was an Islamophobic attack at ASU in which pages from Quran Majid, the holiest book for Muslims, were ripped apart and burnt for Muslim students to find in the interfaith room. The interfaith room is the only place on campus where Muslim students are told they should pray in. Meanwhile, there are multiple small rooms in the Multicultural Center at ASU Tempe that Muslim women who are looking for a private place to pray in are locked out of. We are told the reason that Muslim women cannot use those small spaces to pray in is because it would not be equal.
You see, this is the problem. ASU does not understand the difference between equity and equality, and ASU refuses to center the most marginalized. In addition to that hate crime, around October 31st, another hate crime happened at ASU, Tempe, where anti-Semitism flyers littered the campus. These flyers had an ASU registered student club, the College Republicans United, on the flyer. This is the same club that raised money for Kyle Rittenhouse. And these are just the attacks that have happened since our own viral incident on September 23rd. This tells you a little bit about the type of environment, the toxic place that ASU wants us to be civil in.
I have come to MLK's conclusion that I have integrated my people into a burning building. ASU is on fire. For years, ASU has refused to put out a statement condemning white supremacy after being used as a recruiting ground for Nazis, breeding the culture of hate on this campus. They claim it is because of free speech, and yet we students of color are here being punished for our free speech. I am being punished for being too black, too proud, too loud, and unapologetic. I am being punished for not adopting respectability politics. But I don't need respectability politics. I am a Ford Fellow appointed by President Crow himself to the African American Advisory Council. I achieved all this while refusing to tone down my blackness to make white people feel more comfortable. Our censor has been infiltrated by Trump supporters, and ASU is telling us there's nothing we can do. ASU refuses to protect students of color, and the world needs to know how they treat us here on this campus when we push to make it a better place for all.
Calls for civil dialogue can be weaponized in two critical ways. First, if a white person actively trolls and provokes an encounter, but does so in a relatively implicit way, say they enter a space meant to foreground the experiences of people of color, and these folks deploy a rhetoric meant to diminish Black and queer lives. As long as the trolling is plausibly deniable to an ideologically white-oriented audience, then any pushback that the white individuals receive may be cast as aggression. The act of instigation itself will be erased, and the instigators will be cast as victims, and the people who seek to defend themselves will be seen as aggressors, uncivil, harassers. Second, because of the way in which civil and rational dialogue is racially coded, when white-aligned institutions call for people of color to be civil to interlocutors that have no interest in earnestly engaging and listening, whether intentionally or not, these institutions are asking people of color and other aggrieved communities to be quieter. They are asking them to be less vociferous in their defense of their personhood. In other words, calls for civility easily become calls for docility, a submission to the way things are, as opposed to a vocal defense of the world as it should be. Thank you.
ASU is angry at me and wants me to put me back in my place as a brown woman. ASU is punishing us for standing up for our friends and other students of color. ASU is punishing us for telling two white boys that only one room on campus is not going to center them. If you all didn't see it yesterday, the provost of this university, Nancy Gonzalez, sent out a statement yesterday in response to the 3,511 plus messages ASU received in support of us. In her statement, Nancy Gonzalez tries to sympathize with Zara, Mimi, and I, and assures everyone that ASU is handling this case with cultural awareness. But in her statement, she misspells my first name.
Are you serious?
How are you going to support me if you even can't spell my first name correctly on a public statement? This is the level of care ASU has for us. They're insensitive to Pakistani and Muslim cultures. They want us to turn in a written statement by December 15th, explaining how we will be civil and how, and I quote, you might approach such a situation in the future to facilitate a civil dialogue on the purpose of the MCE are the topics of race and society addressed in this confrontation. They want me to be civil. They're calling me a savage. This is what white people did when they came to my country and they colonized us for 250 years.
I'm Camilla Fojas, the director of the School of Social Transformation, and I'm sending this video in support of the students who were defending the multicultural space at ASU. And part of I wanted to underscore that and to send my support of the students and to say that I think their reaction was justified and was equal to the symbolic violence that these students in their presence and in the symbols that they brought into the space represented.